what do you think then, Sam? You've not got a Christmas tree behind you. Is that a Christmas tree behind you?
It's a Halloween tree.
I was going to say, it's not yet Christmas. I suppose we need to do Halloween first, isn't it? So Halloween tree. Sam, I've got to ask you then. So what do you think? Liz Truss is saying that we shouldn't really be spending £15 million telling people that you need to switch off your kettle and put your washing machine on at night. I mean, most people already know these things. What's your view?
Well, I think that £15 million is a drop in the ocean compared to what could be coming. I'm not a big fan of Jacob Rees-Mogg, but he'd already done a photo shoot and ad campaign. It's essentially it's advice to help people out, and Lord knows, we know what it's like to live in a nanny state because anything can happen. We've just been through a pandemic, but if it stops or at least prevents any kind of rolling blackouts, etc., it will save lives. People are going to die. People who are on ventilators, dialysis. This is a serious, serious crisis. So £15 million is really nothing if it's going to save some lives and also give people the advice that they need. Because of course, we don't necessarily know about all the power how much of a drain certain things in our households are. So I think, why not? I mean, at the end of the day as well, you've got Liz Truss saying no to it this week. She'll probably say yes to it next week because she does love a U-turn.
Seem to be U-turning. But if it's a bad idea, then I don't think it's a bad idea to change your mind. I'd call it that if you change your mind because something better's come along. But listen, you said 15 million quid isn't a lot of money. It is a lot of money, and there's lots of little bits of 15 million quid that add up to a lot of money that they're wasting on stuff like this, telling us things that we already know. They could actually put that money into potentially, changing a load of people who've got the meters where you have to put money into a different type of meter. Do you know what I mean? They could put that money into something else. Instead of, even the MPs could be telling their constituents or, Liz Truss, even if she spoke about it, she'd get a bigger audience than their campaign. So why are they doing this sort of thing?
Well, for starters, they don't seem like they are going to be doing it. But and the reason I say 15 million is not very much. Look at the billions upon billions that they wasted during the pandemic. Compared to all of that is hardly anything. This is an advertising campaign that, as I said, could save lives. This is obviously, we have a government in disarray. We're careening from one crisis to the next, and the Conservatives are in free fall. These are real world problems, and if we literally have power cuts and blackouts at Christmas time in December, people are going to die. So we do need to make sure that if there's anything we can do to help, then we must do it, because we simply don't know. Your average elderly person doesn't know what's going on with the power in their house.
You want to bet my mother, she's 70-something, she's as sharp as a tack. She keeps her eye on that meter as it spins and watches which device is doing it. Most people, I think the government are really underestimating the intelligence of the British public. We do know, especially those in households where they're really watching the money. Those people are usually the most astute of all. Do you think that perhaps the government needs to be doing... you obviously think it's a good idea, but what about things like when they're telling us about blackouts and things? Do you think that's a realistic thing? Do you think they're being honest with that? Do you think it's a bit scaremongery?
No, I don't think it is. I think, as I said before, since the pandemic, we know that literally anything can happen at any point. We don't even know if we're on the verge of a nuclear war worldwide, World War III, for goodness sake. So I think, an ad campaign to simply give people advice is a great idea. And as I said, I'm not a big fan of Jacob Rees-Mogg, but I think he's on the money with this one. And I think it's gonna be some real problems for the British public. I think it's essential. It's essential advice, and I think that we should get on board with it, really.
Well, I think, they're definitely on the money on something. £15 million is a lot of money. Sam Dowler, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. Right, he's a journalist and broadcaster. I'm also joined now by political commentator Reem Ibrahim. Reem, thank you for joining me. What do you think? Do the public need all this modelly-coddling like this and spending £15 million? Sam doesn't seem to think it's a lot of money. I think it could go a long way to help households, but what do you think?
Thank you for having me on. And yeah, I mean, I understand where Sam is coming from, but I think it's incredibly patronizing for us to sit here and say, these elderly people don't know how to reduce energy. Of course they do. They've been around longer than I have. So I'm sure they're more than capable of turning off their own radiators. I mean, this advice is really silly. We do not need the government to tell us what we can and cannot do with our energy. We do not need the government to tell us how to use our energy, how to turn off the boilers, how to turn off radiators. I think the majority of the British public are clever enough to do that themselves.
Well, it does seem, I mean, I'd be inclined to agree with you, but then Sam seems to think that people need this. They need to know, because he said that people are going to die if they don't get this information. I mean, do you think that that's actually a good point?
No, absolutely not, because I think what we need to remember is this is the way that the price mechanism works, right? When we see high prices, we reduce consumption of a good. So whether that be, we're buying too much beer on the weekend, if the prices of beer go up, then we buy less of it. That's how the price mechanism works. As energy is increasing and energy prices are increasing, we reduce the amount of energy that we consume. People are clever enough to do that themselves. They do not need a £15 million government campaign telling them to do it for them. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. I get where Sam is coming from. It is a drop in the water compared to how much the government spend on other things. But just because the government spends so much on other things doesn't mean we need to add to that huge amount of spending that the government currently are in. By the way, it's our taxpayer money that they're spending on these campaigns. And I think that people are more than clever enough, more than capable enough to turn off the radiators themselves.
Well, they'll know, because they're the ones that we're going to have to pay the bill. So if they think we're that stupid, I mean, we're stupid enough having to pay the damn things in the first place. In your view, in general, do you think, and very quickly, that the government intervene a bit too much in our daily lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when we look at sort of tobacco harm reduction, when we're looking at public health, I'm really glad that Therese Coffey is our health secretary now. I think that she understands that we know ourselves better, we know our health better than the government do. And I think it's this idea that the government somehow have more knowledge than we do.